What is up, guys? Make sure that if you like this video, hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Before we start creating, let us take a preview of the effect that we are going to create. So I'm going to hit the play button, and after 2 seconds, we will load a level and see the loading screen right there. And this is the effect that we are going to create, and you can use it for any situation, anytime you need to have a loading screen in your game. So let me just hop into a fresh new project from scratch and we can start building this. I am in a new project, and it does not matter if it's 2D or 3D because what we're gonna do right now applies for both. And the first thing that we're gonna do is import the assets. So I'm gonna go in my folder here and drag and drop these assets. By the way, if you want to download them, link will be in the description of the video. So now I'm gonna double click and we have two of these. So we have our background and we have our loading bar. One thing to note is, because this is a 3D project, by default, these images will be imported on the default. So texture type default, let me just prepare here my highlight tool so that I can highlight things I'm talking about. So this right here, it's imported on default. And this means that we will not be able to use this with Unity's UI. So we cannot create an image and use this image right here to represent it on the screen. Instead, what we need to do is we need to select both of them and go here in the inspector panel, which is on my right side. And here for the texture type, we're going to change it from default to Sprite, in parentheses 2D and UI. So, and UI indicates that we can now use them for UI. And hit apply at the bottom right corner. So bottom right corner of that inspector panel or the properties that we see right here. We are also going to take the loading bar and we're going to change the sprite mode from single to multiple, because if I double click it, you see we have two images. This is our fill inside of the loading bar, and this is the background of the loading bar. So we need to separate them. They are now in one image. So select the loading bar and go again in the inspector, and from the sprite mode, change it from single to multiple. Again, we need to hit apply here at the bottom right corner. So now we can click on the sprite editor, which is this button right here. So this and right here. When we click on that, it will open this window, which is the sprite editor window. Now we can slice these images. And I'm going to click here, slice at the top left corner. So here it is. We're going to click this slice button. And when we click on it, so let me click it, it will open this mini window. And here, make sure this is on automatic. It will be by default pivot center. We are not going to touch anything here except click here slice. And Unity is pretty good in determining how to slice these things. So as you can see, it sliced this one perfect. And this one, well, this one not so much. But it is pretty good most of the time. So let me just re-drag it. So when this happens, for example, I don't know if you can see that. Let me clear my pencil. You see the boundaries where it's sliced are here, but I don't want them to be here. I want them to be here. I don't want this gap between my sprite and the empty space. So you can simply select it and re-drag it on your own. So I'm going to drag it here, and this one I'm going to drag right here. Voila. So simply re-drag it on your own. And yeah, this is pretty cool. This is what I want. So when this happens, as I said, Unity is pretty good most of the times, but with these images, as you can see, I have a little bit darkness here. So here at the bottom below the background for the loading bar. So it cannot determine every single time, but as I said, most of the times it is good at determining things. So what we're gonna do is we're going to select this one. So the bottom one, and here at the bottom right corner, you see the name I highlighted. I'm going to change it here to loading bar BG, and this one is going to be a loading bar fill. So like this. So we have the loading bar fill and the loading bar BG. It can be progress as well. You can, instead of fill, you can name it progress. And now that we have that, you are gonna click the apply button, which is right here. You see at the top right corner of this window. So when you click apply, now they will be separated and we can use them on their own. So now we have two of these and we can use them separated from each other. So this is the preparation we needed to make this, or to make it work. So now we are going to start creating our loading bar. And in order to do that, we're going to right click in the hierarchy, go on UI, and first of all, I am going to create an image. By doing this, automatically we also create a canvas. And we are going to leave the canvas at screen space overlay, and we're not going to touch anything here from these options. And this image is going to be our loading screen BG. So this is going to be the background image. And for the background image, first of all, I'm going to set the X and Y position to 0, 0, position it at the center. And now I'm going to drag and drop this image. So this one right here that you see that we have imported, this image, you need to drag it when you select the loading screen BG, which is actually an image because I right clicked and it created an image, but automatically it also created a canvas because every UI element needs to be a child of a canvas. It cannot exist without a canvas. So select the image and you have this empty field right here. Let me first of all clear. You see this? This is an empty field for the source image, which means you can drag and drop this right here, and that will be the image that will be rendered on the screen. Bam, here it is. But we don't want it to look like this. We don't want this. What is this? So what we can do is we can either change that in the width and the height properties here, where I change the position right below, or you can click on the set native size button inside of the image script. When you click on that, bam, it will simply set the native size, which is 1920 by 1080, which is the default size of our background image. So what is the next thing to do? Well, the next thing to do is to create another image. So right click on the canvas, go under UI, and I'm going to create another image. By the way, I'm going to change this canvas to UI canvas, and I'm going to say dash loading screen. So this image is going to be our loading bar progress. And for the loading bar progress, we're going to drag and drop this one right here, the orange one. So take it, drag and drop it from here, and click here, set native size, but let me just reposition or actually resize it. So the width is gonna be 886 and the height is gonna be 179. So 886 for the width and 179 for the height. Now again, I'm gonna right click on the loading bar progress and under UI create another image, which is now a child of the loading bar progress image. And this one is going to be our loading bar BG. And as you can assume, we're going to drag and drop the loading bar BG here and click here to set it to native size. But actually here, the width is going to be 886 and the height is going to be 208. Voila. So this is our loading bar. Now, of course, I'm going to reposition this one on the y-axis 336, or actually it's going to be at the bottom here. So bottom, this is going to be bottom center, that is, this is going to be the anchor. Now I don't have much time to explain everything what I'm doing here in terms of high detail, but basically when you set the anchor, you determine where the origin or the center of that UI element is. So if I set here 0, 0 position, and we set the anchor to be at the bottom center, so bottom middle center, you see now the center of our image. So let me go here, and where is our image? Here is it. So you see where the anchor is, you see where it's pointing, this right here, this right here, this is the center of the image, and it's there. You see, it's at the bottom center, so bottom middle center. Anyways, if you want a special UI tutorial, just let me know in the comment section below. And here for our position Y, I'm going to say 336, and this is where the position of our loading bar is going to be. Now, what I'm also going to do is for the loading bar in the image, so right here inside of the image, here, right? And what I'm gonna do there is change this image type from simple to filled. And I'm going to change the fill method from radial 360 to horizontal. And basically that's all. Because now we have this fill amount slider right below. You see horizontal here, then we have this left, and we have the slider. You see now, pay attention to the loading bar when I'm moving it left and right. So I'm moving it left and right, and voila, this is our loading bar. So basically that's it for our loading bar. What is left for us to do is to create a text. So I'm going to right click on the UI canvas, go here and text, and this is going to be our loading text, which is simply going to say loading, and it's gonna be bold. So you see here these options for the text. You can change the font if you have imported any font. You can change the style to bold, italic, or whatever. You can also change the size, but first of all, let me resize the width and the height, which is gonna be 959, which is the width, and the height is gonna be 168, and that's the height. And now the font size is gonna be 147. Voila, like this. And I'm also going to change the color, so you can play with these. If you open any image editing software, this is what you have for options for any text, basically. I'm also going to set the alignment at the middle, and I am going to set here the anchor at the bottom center, same as what I did for the loading bar progress, and 132 is going to be the position Y. So this is now our canvas. This is the canvas that we want. Now, how can we manipulate the canvas? Of course, we need to create a script. So I'm going to right click here and create a C# script. And this one is going to be called our loading screen. And what I'm going to do is create an empty game object. So here I'm going to create an empty game object. I'm going to reset its position, and I am going to name him to loading screen. And I'm going to take the UI canvas, the loading screen UI canvas, and put it as a child of that game object. So now you see, if we turn off the canvas, we don't see anything, and voila, it's gonna carry basically our UI canvas. And we're going to drag and drop the loading screen on this game object. So now when I double click it and open it here in Visual Studio, this is our script. What I like to do when I have loading screens in my games is I also love to use it for loading scenes, so loading different levels, because what's the point of separating the code? You are going to show the loading screen when you load a level, so why not put the same code right there? Basically, it's a single line of code. So for that, because we're going to use UI elements, we need to type using Unity engine.ui, which is for UI elements, and we also need to type using Unity engine.scene management, because we want to load scenes. We want to go from one scene to another scene. Now, one thing that we are going to do with this loading screen, because he's gonna show the loading screen and he's also going to load scenes, which means we need to carry it from one scene to another. That's why I'm going to make it a singleton. So I'm going to create here a public static loading screen instance, and below our start, I'm going to create void make singleton. And in the make singleton, we are simply going to test if instance is not equal to null, we are going to destroy the duplicate. So destroy the game object. Else, if instance is null, then instance is equal to this. Don't destroy unload this game object. Basically, what I did here is created one copy from this class that will be carried from one scene to another scene. If you don't know what I'm talking about, I will put a link in the description to my singletons video, because I created a separate video, half an hour, only talking about singletons, explaining in high depth. After that video, singletons will not be a problem for you. So if you don't understand, watch that video, link will be in the description below. Here above the start, I'm going to create the awake function, and this is where I like to call make singleton, because awake is the function that's first called. It is going to load everything, the first function that's going to be executed when our game loads. That's why I love to call it here. So the next thing that we're going to do, we need a private game object, and this is going to be our loading bar holder. This is that canvas, the loading bar that we have created, which holds all the UI elements. And since I want to drag and drop it, so I want to drag and drop it inside of this field, I'm going to type here serialize field, so that the private variable will now be visible here in the inspector panel, as you can see. So pay attention now. It is visible. If I make it private and don't use this serialize field, pay attention what's gonna happen now. It is not gonna be visible here in the inspector panel. Now I also need a private, so private image loading bar progress. And both are going to be serialized field, which means now we're going to drag and drop them in these fields. So I'm gonna go here in Unity and we need to drag and drop it. So UI canvas goes here in the loading bar holder, and this loading bar progress, that's the image that goes right here. So loading bar progress, and the canvas goes right here. Now we can safely turn them off. So simply select the canvas. You see here, I have the canvas, turn it off. So now we only see this right here. And we can come back now in Visual Studio, and below our private image, we're also going to create a private float, which is going to be progress. So progress value, which is going to be equal to 1.1f. Our private float progress multiplier, so multiplier underscore 1, which is going to be equal to 0.5f. And our private float progress multiplier underscore 2, which is going to be equal to 0.07f. Voila, we have everything what we need to start loading our levels. So below our make singleton, we are going to create here a public void, a load level with the string, which is going to be our level name. This is how we are going to load one scene and go from one scene to another. And when that happens, we are going to show the loading screen. In order to show the loading screen, we need to call here the loading bar holder set active to true, because that's the canvas. Currently, it's not active. When you turn off a game object, you see this checkbox. When you uncheck it, the game object is not active, which means the game object is not visible in the scene, and any script attached on that game object will also not function. It will not execute. But when it's checked, you see now it is visible. Any function that's attached on this game object will work. And basically, you see this check and uncheck. In code, we do it like this. So set active true will make it visible, or active. False, if we type here false, it will make it not active. So show the loading bar, the progress value is going to be equal to 0. Our time scale, so time scale dot time scale is going to be equal to 0. This is because if you want to go from one level to another level, basically this is not important right now for this tutorial, but if you want to go from one level to another level, you will pause everything else what is going on. So you're going to stop the time. That's why you use this time scale. But as I said, I'm not going to touch it here. You don't need it for this tutorial. But if you're working on a game, as I said, you might need it. Anyways, the next thing to do is call the scene manager dot load scene, and passing here the level name, which is the level name that we are going to load. Now, in order for that to happen, basically setting this to 0 will trigger the activation of our loading bar. How? Because here below I have a function that I'm going to say void show loading screen, like this, not screen, but screen. And this one is going to be called in the update. So here I'm going to have the update function, and I'm going to call it right here. You know that the update function is called every frame in a second. So what we're going to do here in our show loading screen is that we're going to check if the progress value is less than 1f. And by setting it here, so not awake, what are you doing to me? Okay, now setting the progress value here to be equal to 0 will make this true, because we're testing here if the progress value is lower than 1. So if one value is greater than the progress value, setting it here to 0 will trigger the activation of this if statement. So what we're going to do here is we're going to say our progress value plus equals to progress multiplier 1 multiplied with the progress multiplier 2. Our loading bar progress, so loading bar progress dot fill amount is going to be equal to progress value. Voila. And this is going to fill the loading bar. Now here we need to test if our progress value is greater or equal to 1. So if it's greater or equal to 1, the loading bar has finished. So what we're going to do here is we're going to say our progress value is equal to 1.1f. Because we don't want this to be executed, we can also leave it at 1, but I'm putting it here 1.1 to know that the reason for that is so that this will not be true. And here I'm going to say if progress value less than 1, like this. So we are going to set it here, progress value is 1.1, which means this right here will not execute anymore, it will not be true. Our loading bar holder, actually the fill amount or loading bar progress dot fill amount is going to be equal to 0f. And now our loading bar holder set active is going to be equal to false. And if here you use timescale is equal to 0, here you will use timescale. So time.timescale is equal to 1 again. If you use that, of course, as I said, if you used it. So we can test it out now basically, but before we do that, let me just go here and turn on our UI canvas because I'm going to take the loading bar progress and set the fill amount to 0 because it starts to fill from the 0. And pay attention, we're multiplying these two, which are very small values. Of course, we can use time.delta time, but I want to use it like this. And we will see another way also how we can do it, which is a small value because pay attention here, we're also testing if the progress value, if it's lower than 1, because the fill amount here for our progress or loading bar progress, it can go from 1 to, or from 0 to 1. It cannot go from 100 to 0, from 0 to 100. It goes from 0 to 1. And you see these increments, so 0.413, 0.588. That's why we are doing it like that. Now, let me just go back here. What I'm going to do is the following. I'm going to create here a coroutine. So I'm going to say IEnumerator. And a coroutine is a function that delays an execution. So basically we can say something like load some level, for example. And here I can say yield return new wait for seconds. And I can say here below public float load level time. By default, let's say it's equal to 2. This is for testing purposes. So load level time. And when this counts down, we are simply going to call this load level. So call it here load level. And here I'm going to pass gameplay, for example. So I'm going to say gameplay. But we need to create this level. And we also need to do this. We need to go in the start function and we need to say start coroutine and pass this right here. If we do it like this now, the code will execute, but it will not work. And I will show you that in a second. So if I go here, clear the console. For some reason, every time I like to clear the console, but pay attention now. After 2 seconds, we should load the level, but you see now, we saw the loading screen, but you see gameplay level could not be loaded because we don't have it. We don't have the loading, that gameplay level. So what we need to do is, we need to go here, file a new scene and create a new scene. So file, new scene, Command S or Control S if you're on Windows to save that scene and name it gameplay, capital G. Capital G, this is really important because the name of the level needs to match up with the name that we passed here inside of this function. The next thing that I need to do is go here in the scenes folder, and currently I'm gonna go back in the sample scene and go here under build settings and click here add open scene. Basically it is already added, but now click on the gameplay and click on add open scenes. This is how you load scenes. You add them here in the build and you add them that way. You open the scene, you open this build and you click on add open scenes. Again, the build is under file and build settings and voila. So now we can do it. If I hit the play button after 2 seconds, we will load the gameplay scene. Actually, I'm in the gameplay scene. Stupid. So now I am in the sample scene. After 2 seconds, we will load the gameplay scene and we will see the loading bar. Of course, it was quick, but what I can do is I can make these public. So I can make this one public and I can make this one public as well. So now we can manipulate these values, and the lower the values are, the longer it will load our game. So let's say here if we put number 3 for the multiplier 2, and if I hit the play button now, after 2 seconds we will see the loading screen. You see, bam, and it is filling. And let's try it like this. So I'm going to say point, I don't know, 3 here instead of 0.5. And now if I hit the play button, pay attention again. So it is going to load the screen after 2 seconds, but the lower these values are, the longer it will take for you to load the level. Now, of course, somebody's gonna say, well, this is not that great way to load because my level can load in 2 seconds and you're loading it for 5 seconds and so on and so forth. Well, I have another solution for you. What I can do here is I can go below and we're going to create an enumerator, which is a coroutine, and we're going to call it load asynchronously. So load asynchronously, and here I'm going to say string level name. And what we're gonna do here is we are going to say async operation is gonna be equal to, and actually we're going to call it operation, is gonna be equal to scene manager dot load scene async. This is going to load it asynchronously, and here we're going to say level name. I will explain in a second what is asynchronously, what does that mean, and yeah, of course. Why shouldn't I press enter to load whatever? Anyways, what we need to do here is we're going to call our loading bar. So loading bar holder set active is equal to true. And here we're going to say while the operation dot is done, and of course we're going to say here an exclamation mark, which means while the operation is not done. So while the operation is not done, because you see here this done has the operation finished. This is the operation. The operation is to load the scene asynchronously. Asynchronous means in the background. Basically, we load the scene in the background while Unity is building up that scene with all the 3D models, cool levels that we added in our game. So that happens behind the background, and in order to make it happen in the background, you use load scene asynchronously. And this operation, which is this one that we have created, is going to help us do that. And notice the exclamation mark, it makes what's after it the opposite. So is done will return true if it's done, but it will return false if it's not done. So if it's not done, it will return false. Exclamation mark will make it the opposite. So this right here will be true. So while that is the case, we're going to say float. So float progress is going to be equal to, and we're going to say operation.progress, and we're going to divide that by 0.9f. The reason for that is you saw that the fill amount goes from 0 up to 1. So it goes from 0 to 1. But this operation goes from 0 up to 0.9. So if we divide that by 0.9, when it gets at 0.9, 0.9 divided by 0.9, it's equal to 1. And here we're going to say a loading bar progress dot fill amount is going to be equal to the progress value that we have just created here. And after that, we are simply going to say here if progress is greater or equal to 1, then we're going to say loading bar holder set active is equal to false. And here below, because this is an enumerator, we need to call here yield return null. And voila, we are good to go. So now I can rerun this again, and bam, let me just turn it off. So now we don't have this error that was, well, being annoying here this whole time. Basically, again, enumerator is a function that allows you to delay the execution of a function, and you delay that execution by calling yield return, and here we called wait for seconds, and we specify how many seconds we want to wait. But this return null means skip 1 frame. Again, if you want to learn more about coroutines, I will put a link in the description of the video. So now we need to simply call this function, and for that I'm going to create a public void, and I'm going to call this one load level async, and string level name like this. And simply here we're going to call start coroutine, calling load asynchronously, passing the level name, and basically that is that. But you will see now, if I do something like this here, so here I'm calling load level gameplay, but here I'm going to call load level async, passing the gameplay. Again, pay attention how you are spelling gameplay, because if you miss something, it will not work. If I go back in Unity, and if I hit the play button, you will notice after 2 seconds we're gonna load the level, but at lightning speed. Basically, we did not even see it. You see, I'm in the gameplay scene now. You see, I'm in the gameplay scene. So yeah, we did not even see it. The reason for that is because this happens behind the background. It basically waits for Unity to prepare the scene. You can have some big complex scene with some 3D worlds, enemies, blah, blah, blah. And this async will wait. It will fill that progress the way Unity fills those assets or fills those 3D models in your scene. Basically, Unity loads those models because you imported them. It loads them, and while it is loading them, this right here will know the progress by using this operation progress. It will know the progress of that loading, and it will display that progress. But since we are going to an empty scene, there is nothing to load. Unity loads that scene pretty quickly. That's why we did not even saw it, because it was lightning fast. That's why I showed you 2 ways how this works. And in order to test this async way, you would probably need some large scene, add some 3D objects. I'm not gonna do that, but add some 3D objects, put this and that, blah, 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 and it will work. But as I said, I'm not gonna do it. This right here will be enough. Again, I'm going to go and demonstrate that. So if I hit the play button, you will notice that now, you see, it's loading, and bam, now we are in our scene. Here, and if you want to download the assets in this project, link will be in the description below. If you have any requests, put it in the comment below. Otherwise, like, share, subscribe, and here, I will see you guys in another video. What is up, guys? Make sure that if you like this video, hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications.